Oh,
Yeah, I'm not messing with that shit.
Literally.
No way. Yeah, literally shit.
Speaking of which, welcome to
exactly. I mean, yeah. Hit the intro, Josh. You can hit the intro. You give it a shot.
I don't know it as well as I know Hot One's intro.
Well, in fairness, it has been around a lot longer. Well, this is the 2 Decades Too Late podcast, everyone. Welcome in. I'm Brad, hanging out with Josh.
Yo!
This is the podcast in which we rate and review an album that is turning 20 years old, mostly metal for whatever it's worth. Josh and I each give a rating of 1 to 5 to 4 different parameters for an individual maximum point total of 20 and a combined maximum point total of 40. What do we getting to get?
Well, we got God forbid, Gone Forever.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
that was
gross.
awful. Yeah,
That's awful.
I feel bad about that. This week we've got the Gone Forever album from God Forbid. That felt better. That felt nice.
That really well done by you.
Yeah.
Really well done.
With a little bit more intonation than I normally use.
Hey, what do you think about people that hit the T's on the word better really hard? Like better.
I hate it.
Yep. Okay. Good.
There's better, and then there's that, and then there's the British who don't use the T at all. It's just better.
I'm better with that.
I am better with that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Oof. But yeah, those 2 T's, when you hit that shit hard, it's like you're doing that on purpose.
Yeah, and while we're at it, exactly. You ever talk to anybody who does that?
I don't know if I've heard that.
Good.
That's awful.
It is.
That's hard. That's tough to do. I mean, it's in there.
Exactly.
Oh, I don't like that at all.
Bring a conversation to a dead stop. Next time you need to get out of something, just be like, that's exactly what I'm talking about, and then walk away.
Yeah. Yeah, because I get invited to a lot.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to get into a little bit of God forbidness here?
Yeah. We are open for God forbidness.
God forbid.
All right. Yep. Yeah, so
I'm the one who did it this time.
I know. Formed in 1996, so they've been around a good little while by 2004.
Shit.
Yeah. I was actually surprised by that. From East Brunswick, New Jersey, and I don't feel good saying this, but looking at them, I can tell they're from New Jersey.
I mean, they got an air of whatever that ham shit they have there. What is that stuff called? The New Jersey, what is that? It's
the garbage
ham
plate?
Roll. No, actually, that doesn't sound too bad.
Yeah.
Ham roll. It's a pork roll, excuse me.
Pork roll.
If you've never had pork roll, and theirs is Taylor, I had it delivered once, and it tastes like shit.
Oh, that's too bad.
It's really bad. It's like Spam if someone were trying to make it sweet.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and honestly, you just eat Spam. Spam's delicious.
It is. Cultural delicacies aside, they are part of that, New England area metal hardcore scene. For sure. So we've talked about that whole thing kind of ad nauseum at this point in the year.
Well, that's what the early 2000s were. That was our generation's new wave of heavy metal in America. It was. We had the Bay Area in the 80s, and then we had the New England era in the early 2000s, which, good.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank goodness for it.
Yep.
2 prior releases at this point, Reject the Sickness in 99 and Determination in 2001. Interestingly, I guess this is their second release on Century Media. Determination was their first, and I think this was a pretty highly anticipated follow-up album to Determination, which I don't know if I've ever heard anything from, honestly.
I listened to it I listened to this once. I'll try to listen to these kind of at work as a background a little bit before trying to get myself kind of familiarized with it.
Yep.
Before like hitting it real hard. Yeah. But yeah, the one, honestly, I'm not gonna say I like the album before this better necessarily, but man, it's good. Like, sick. Well, remember the Kill Switch documentary, the what's it called? Set World Ablaze.
Yeah.
And the God Forbid dudes are in that, which so is everyone from the New England metal hardcore,
as you should be,
culture. Yep. And they were like, "Oh, we knew nu metal was dead when we saw." I want to say it wasn't even Kill Switch; it was whatever Adam D's band before that was. I can't remember, but and he's like, and we just knew nu metal was dead. So I always, all these years later, I mean, that thing probably came out almost 20 years ago. I thought before this album, God Forbid would have been a nu metal band. I thought that that's what he was getting at, like, and we were a nu metal band, and then we saw this shit, and we were like, we got to pivot. No, not at all. I turned it on like, let's see what they sound like as a nu metal band.
Right.
Joke's on me. It's not that at all.
It is
good.
Super
it's really good.
Not. Yeah, it is very metalcore, kind of Swedish melodic death metal. And I always kind of, for whatever reason, attributed them as a thrash band, which this album does have a thrash metal moniker to it, at least on the wiki page.
Yeah.
Which I don't get a whole lot of on this album.
I have to be honest with you, I don't get metalcore either. This is they have a couple, like, I wouldn't even call them hardcore adjacent. I mean, melodic death metal bands have been doing, like, not breakdowns, but just chug where the double bass follows. They've been doing that since the late 90s. So, I don't even think this is metalcore. This is just straight up melodic death metal album. And I feel like they had the problem that Himsa had, where I think they just came out a little too soon. Like, I think if they both the Himsa album and that we listened to, or this, if they came out in 2010, people would have been like,
yeah,
because Dahlia had kind of like gotten a grip on everybody, and people were listening to a lot more, Scandinavian stuff because that's what everyone was influenced by. So I feel bad for them a little bit because it's almost like you were kind of overshadowed by your metalcore counterparts.
Yeah. They didn't have, like, the huge breakthrough that I think they probably could or should have, but, I mean, they did kind of move from opening acts and get into, like, some, credibility in their own right.
Yeah, they did. And, well, for us, I mean, I'm surprised Anti-Hero didn't get them to another level.
Same. Super
I really
same.
Don't.
Because
it's in the top 5. Yeah, and it's the perfect length.
Yeah.
Like, there's no... I mean, that's as down the middle as you get with this genre. I'm a little surprised. It's a great song.
I wonder if... So, they had their next album, which was in 2005, Constitution of Treason. I wonder if, having music come out so quickly afterward and then kind of being, I don't know, politically biased, maybe detracted from this release in a way. Like, people didn't get the time to digest it, maybe, or really get into it.
It definitely could be. I don't know. It's just like all the stuff's there. And this is when kind of the political thing got popular. In, like, you had Gwar Bring Back the Bomb, and you had
just the whole Hidden Hands album.
6 Feet Under. Yeah, the whole Hidden Hands album. 6 Feet Under doing the America the Brutal song that got really big. Fuck that guy, man. Boy, he is a piece of shit. What were we even talking about? But yeah, I don't know. They didn't have, singing choruses, and I suppose that's... Or the hardcore sensibilities. Again, I don't get why this is called a metalcore album. I really don't. I don't think it's metalcore at all.
Is it because there's, like, some clean-ish background vocals? Which I don't always love the sound of on this album.
God, they're so bad.
They're not.
When they're just in the background, they're fine. This is exactly like Zayo, Funeral of God.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, his voice might be worse.
I was thinking better.
Doing the clean.
It's one of the coils.
Well, you know what? Let's go ahead and talk about that. On this album, we've got Byron. There's a Byron, which is so cool. I don't know why, but that just like makes me want to play Witcher 3.
Like, he looks like a Byron too.
He does, yeah. We've got Byron Davis on lead vocals, harsh vocals, or if you're into eternity, death vocals.
Right.
We've got the Coyle brothers, Doc Coyle on lead guitar and clean vocals, and Dallas Coyle on rhythm guitar and clean vocals.
Yeah.
John Beaker Outcalt?
Yeah, why not?
Outcalt. That's harder than most of the fucking Scandinavian names we've ran into. That's weird.
Yeah.
On bass guitar, I guess, so who cares? And I'm kidding. And Corey Pierce on drums. Yeah, and I think worth noting, well, so I will say, as far as them getting big, I know this is kind of neither here nor there, but I believe, if not both Coyle brothers, but Doc Coyle, I'm 100% positive he started Bad Wolves. So he got his just dessert. Yeah, that's his band.
Okay.
Anyway, so God forbid.
Yeah, God forbid we stay on track.
God forbid.
Ugh.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, really good album. I will say that it lives in a mediocre spot for me a little bit.
Most users, I guess, so the All Music Review, they gave it a 4 out of 5. It's got a user rating of 3 out of 5.
Interesting. I'm surprised by that. It's usually the opposite.
It is usually the opposite, but I think, as they're wont to do, they summarize it pretty incredibly. But they pretty much talk about, like, this is a lot. Like, it's heavy, and it's always a lot apart from, like, a couple short interludes. So, like, most people will find that it's a couple songs too long. And they'd be
it is too long.
Just as happy to kind of have, maybe an EP or like digested a couple songs at a time, which I totally agree with.
I couldn't agree with that more. No. It's also, it's strange, like, speaking of the metalcore scene at the time, you can hear at times where they're trying to shoehorn that stuff in a way that they're clearly not those dudes, but they're trying to shoehorn it in at times. And I feel like if they just went straight up, I'm not going to worry about what's happening around me. This is what we do well, so let's just do it well and not worry about any of that stuff. This album would have been incredible. It's the trying to be
Killswitch.
Like, yes, it's trying to be on the level of their peers that I think is one of their biggest downfalls. Because I just don't think it works. But yeah, I definitely agree with. They have a bad Hidden Hands issue with the middle of their songs too, a little bit.
They do. Where some of them do. Like, there's a 6 minutes. Actually, weirdly, both of my top favorite songs were the longest songs. But in both of them, I couldn't decide which was my favorite because I was like, which one drags on less?
Yeah, they do a lot of dragging. Like, honestly, I don't know if they need to cut any songs, but I think if they just, honed it in a little bit and kind of cut off the stuff that didn't need to be there.
Yeah. I
mean, if all of these songs sat right under 4 minutes or even a little over, I just think they'd be better for it. And because it was a bit fatiguing.
Yeah.
As the album went on.
Yeah, there's not a one under 3.5.
Also, Anti-Hero. Are we not picking that as a favorite? Are we making that choice on this? Because Anti-Hero, I'll be goddamned.
Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say I don't make very many playlists ever without Anti-Hero on it.
Yeah.
So, like,
there's no reason to ever not listen to that song.
It is one of the top 5 best songs from this era of metal, of extreme metal. Like, it is.
I'll say all time.
Yeah, it's. If I could just go back in time 20 years and say, listen, I know the black and white and dead all over thing really works for what you're trying to say.
Right.
But I'm going to ask you not to say it. Because you have a perfect song with maybe the dumbest line of lyrics I've ever heard.
Yeah.
It's the only thing about the song the song is flawless apart from, and that's at track 2, by the way, Anti-Hero we're talking about, but it's just the black, white, and dead all over thing. If it's the only thing.
Yeah.
Otherwise, perfect song.
Maybe if they had done it also on the second one, like, you could get on board, because it's like, okay, that's the thing.
Yeah.
But the second time they do the "When will the war against war begin?" and it's way better.
It's one of the best lines ever written, and I'm like, that's such a cool way to say. I remember even when we were young, because we got into Anti-Hero real time.
Yeah.
Which another weird thing where I know this comes up a decent amount. Also, spoiler, if we do this for enough years to get to 2027, maybe this will stop. But Nick Morrow really loved God Forbid. I don't know if you remember that, but like,
I don't.
He was super into them, because honestly, I don't know if I had ever heard this whole album, but with the caveat that I know I had through Nick Morrow, but I had never listened to it on my own. But he was super into he was into the Scandinavian stuff before. Like, he was more into the haunted than we were, and he was just he had that strong as fuck Metallica background, so I'm sure that kind of stuff spoke to him more than
sure did.
Yeah.
But yeah, we heard Anti-Hero on a Century Media sampler. Like, it was out there. Surprisingly, not the single that's cited from the album. The single release was Better Days.
Yeah, and I didn't even know that was a single.
Nope.
I had no idea. I thought the only single was Anti-Hero.
Agreed.
Anti-Hero?
Yeah. And T-Hero.
Do you have a preference on that? I guess I'm realizing now that I don't know if I have a specific. I guess I normally say Anti-Hero.
I do too, but he delivers the line lyrically as Anti-Hero.
Anti-Hero.
So
true.
Anti-Hero and Uncle Sam, I guess. That's dumb. That's a stretch.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Let's cut that out.
Nope.
Yep.
Nope. Nope. I have a level of offensive-ness that needs to be cut out of this, 98% of which comes out of my mouth. That wasn't either of those things, so... yeah, I mean... So, yeah, I feel like the album overall has a bit of a middle of the song problem for me. A lot of talent on the album, though, coming together to make something that stands out from their peers pretty hugely. I mean, it just doesn't sound like... Again, apart from the times they're trying to shoehorn it in there, which I wish they didn't.
Yeah, man, speaking of which, was it like an early 2000s thing to just suck the life out of a song? Like, I was Living Nightmare, the start of that one, I was so pumped. Like, that build energy, and then they went straight into that, like, like going 90 miles an hour into a brick wall. But I was also thinking, and I was like, man, Sealed with a Kiss did that. Like, a lot of people kind of did that in the hardcore leaning side of things.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right. That was a thing. But more specifically with hardcore albums. And again, that's where I think if you just didn't care about what was happening around you and did your thing, man, because that part is one of the parts I specifically call out for trying too hard to put a thing where it shouldn't belong. It just doesn't belong.
It was jarring, and I hated it. But the rest of the song picks up. So, like, God, just don't crash into the brick wall. Just keep going 90 miles an hour.
Right. And that was the thing, like, when I was in Behold Eternity, we used to get in arguments about that. And they'd be like, well, maybe we need a slow part. I was like, we don't need a slow part. We play fast fucking melodic death metal. Yeah. Like, so we're just going to play fast fucking... but the song's still going to only be 3.5 minutes. Great.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. And then go figure. People liked it. Yeah, I was such a piece of shit to work with. Probably still am. Good thing no one tries.
Yeah.
But you're right. And honestly, what you said about, Like, you could almost sum up this whole album by just going, just maybe don't, if you just didn't.
Yeah.
Oh, but the rest of the song was...
Right.
It's like a lot of that.
Don't say black, white, and dead all over. Don't crash your Maserati 90 miles an hour into a brick wall. People want to go fast in a Maserati.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, good choice on Maserati. I don't think of Maserati a lot.
Know. Yeah.
That's good. No, I appreciate it. You could have said Ferrari, and it's like everybody says Ferrari when talking about crashing into brick walls.
Maserati goes 185. Sorry, Joe Walsh. I'm going to get sued. I didn't clear that.
No, there's a time limit on that stuff.
Oh, good.
Yeah, because...
It can't be public domain.
No, I'm saying, like, you can sing a song for, like, I think below 5 seconds. I think you have 5 seconds or something. Yeah, so, like, actually, that game show, they have a segment. They're like, we can only play you a little bit of this thing for copyright reasons. But it actually makes the game super good because that's the amount of time that makes it kind of tough.
Yeah.
So, no, you're good. I think you're totally fine with that.
Hell yeah.
Also, who's...
Yeah, right. Well, Joe Walsh. Well, he's...
Well, yeah. I didn't even know. I wouldn't have been able to... You named that. I wouldn't have been able to do that.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
That one's stuck in there.
Yeah.
Do you want to get to the...
So... Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Get to the review. Review! Because no one needs to know.
That's our little secret.
Don't tell Jeffrey. Do you get that at all?
No, I don't.
I can only think of her real name, Ina Garden. Barefoot Contessa.
Okay.
Remember those from back in the day?
Yeah, I do.
And we're going to be serving this meatloaf with a little sauce with some ketchup in it. Don't tell Jeffrey. Jeffrey was like her husband. Yeah, and I was just like, so what part of that are we not telling Jeffrey? That there's ketchup in it?
Probably.
Could be it.
I now need a t-shirt. Not want, need a t-shirt that says "Don't tell Jeffrey."
Don't tell Jeffrey.
With no context.
Well, I'm glad I explained, because I honestly, that's what I just did verbally, was out of context Ina Garten, Don't Tell Jeffrey from 1999 Food Network.
I work with a person named Jeffrey, and I want to wear that to work so bad now.
Don't tell Jeffrey.
Fucking awesome.
And she always said it like that too, like it was some like you and I are in this together now.
Like he can't watch the tape.
Right, like, man, I'm not telling Jeffrey that you used oyster crackers over saltines. Get out of here. I'm in this. Yeah. I'm in this now.
This is our secret.
Taking this to the invested. Grave. Oh, great. Yeah. Okay. So, we're talking about God Forbid, Gone Forever. What did you think of the artwork, Josh?
I gave it a 5. I love it. I think it's, as a graphic, I think it's phenomenal. And as an album cover for what the rest of the album is, I think it's equally phenomenal. I love the color palette. I love the composition. I love that the Raven's got like holes in his wings too. The logo's super good. And hearing more of the album itself and having like some sense of their kind of Scandinavian melodic death metal sound, like it tracks even more than when I thought they were a straight up thrash band.
Interesting. All right. Well,
what did you think?
So I like it more than New Jersey Pork Roll. That's for sure.
So it gets at least a 1.
Yeah. I landed on a 3.
Okay.
I just don't have a strong feeling toward it. It's a little on the nose with the Raven holding a rose and the album title being Gone Forever.
Yep. I get that.
But it's not, and I don't love the band logo. I don't hate it. It seems like of a bygone era a little bit. It's like the logo doesn't fit the band for me. It sounds like it would more fit like a who did the "Watch These Fuckers Jump as I Get Loose" Primer 55. Like, it doesn't look like it would be a Primer 55 logo, but it looks like it would be like a Edema or some other
or a Tommy Vext project.
Band. Right, yeah, actually. It just seems kind of in that realm. It's fine. Like, it's perfectly fine, especially because it does seem to be a graphic, and it doesn't look like, we've had some ones where I've had a strong opinion about that. Misery Signals was kind of one of those. So it's solid. It just, I don't know. This is why it's a 3. I just didn't have a strong opinion one way or another.
That's super fair. And I am remiss. I did not figure out who to credit for the album artwork. I don't know if you did, but they're not listed on the wiki, and I didn't, you know what? I couldn't be bothered to Google it. I just fucked right off on that.
Well, that's, God damn it, but now I have to.
Yeah, I know, right?
I can't not. Son of a bitch. God forbid industrial death metal. There's 2 God forbids. How about that? All right, discography.
Disco.
Lineup.
You didn't just type
Recording information. Well, I have Encyclopedia Metallum saved.
That's usually a good reference.
Yeah, they don't have it either.
Yeah. It might just no one's taking credit for it.
That seems pretty weird.
You
know what, normally I would feel bad about this big of a derailment, but it actually kind of matters a little bit.
Ooh, liner notes.
Artwork, Travis Smith.
That's a fake name.
Born 1970, runs Seam Pieces Design Studio.
Yeah, okay, that might be a real name.
Travis Smith artwork. Travis Smith artist. Oh. He's done everything.
Okay. Cool.
Oh my god. Okay. He did everything you've not, if we haven't talked about it, he did the rest of it.
Okay.
Good lord. How is this person not credited?
A gift to artwork, Travis Smith.
This is a bigger miss than whoever wasn't credited, what, in the Misery Signals, maybe?
Yeah, maybe.
Someone wasn't credited. This is bigger than that.
Oh, Something Wicked This Way Comes, The Sound of Perseverance. Jesus, this is a big miss.
Yeah. This might be the second most prolific artist, is what you would also call that.
No, I prefer artwork person.
Artwork person.
It seems like you could actually get a job getting an artwork person degree.
That's actually true. Yeah. Or at least it would be taken more seriously, for better or for worse.
Right.
Wow, how about that, man? Well done, Travis Smith. Yeah, anyway, what'd you think of the production about this here Gone Forever by God Forbid?
So I thought many different things as I was listening to it.
Same.
The first time I listened to the album, it was with my earbuds, which have pretty decent sound. But I had switched from a more modern recording to this, and I was like, oh my god, this sounds tinny and thin and small. But then you get to, so that was the first track, and Antihero's the second track, and I was like, yes! The production on this it sounds like completely different production. And then as the album went on, I was like, oh, this is fine.
Yeah.
So my guess is that it was really pretty solid in 2004, but it definitely starts to sound older. So I gave it a 3. overall. The cymbals sound gorgeous. They sound like fine china.
And at times literally.
Yeah.
But I actually agree with you about the cymbals, which is kind of funny. Because
thing.
I pointed it out. I was like, man, that's so I think the guitar tone, I don't think it sounds thin. I do think it sounds kind of dark though. There's nothing bright about it.
It's very atmospheric, which also caught me off guard. Like,
yeah. It is really, it's not muddy, but it's not bright at all.
No.
There's no brightness to it at all. I think the tones are pretty good. I think whoever actually recorded this album failed the band a little bit because, like, there are times where the bass peaks, and it's not because it's doing something special. It's just in the middle of, you'll just hear a loud bass, don't get me wrong. That's why, like, metal people shit on bassists as a joke and whatever, but playing bass on a recording and not making it sound like a bunch of ups and downs is fairly difficult to do. But there are also ways in production to smooth that out. So and it's not really even hard. Like, that's something I can actually do. So it's like, meaning it's not difficult to do at all.
Maybe in 2004, but
no
I can't
way.
even make that
No
argument
way.
because you've got Eric Rachel, Colin Richardson, and Steve Evans. Like, that's your sound team. This should sound better.
Yeah, like, and I do think the mixing is done very well. I think that everything sits at a good spot. The frequencies are good, and that was before I knew it was Colin Richardson. So don't worry if I would have known after. I probably would have gave it that same review even if I believed it or not, because it's against my religion to shit on Colin Richardson. It's totally fine. Here's one thing I'm going to point out, though. The double kick sucks so bad on this album. There are so many times where he just doesn't play it right. And it's like, you didn't hear that? You didn't hear him just miss a kick in that one part?
Ugh.
Or like accidentally flubs it and hits kind of like 2 and it should only be 1. Like, the double bass on this album is bad.
Damn.
And it's like, listen, I know people have a problem with using triggers and quantization and all that stuff, but if you ever want a reason to maybe argue against your problem with it, listen to this album, because it takes me out of it at times. I'm like, why would you keep that in a production, like a professional production?
Maybe
like,
get a better drummer.
Again,
I don't know.
I mean, you can just quantize the double kicks. Even in 2004, that wasn't hard to do. You just snap it to a grid. Yeah. So it's like, again, maybe they were like, no, we want it to be raw.
Snap!
You know, yeah. And into a Slim Jim. So what did you think? What's your impact at the time?
Well, did you give a production number?
No, I didn't.
Sick.
3.
Okay.
Yeah. It's fine. It's just like, yeah.
I will say,
fine's the best I've got.
When you talked about it not being like bright or it not I looked back at the album artwork and I was like, oh, the production just, you could describe it the same way. Like, it's colorless. Like, it's not black and white. It's just colorless.
It is dead all over.
Yeah. Nice. Got it in. Impact at the time, I gave it a 2 because I didn't listen to the whole album and I didn't like get into God Forbid, but man, Anti-Hero was a deal.
Yes. I'm gonna go with a 3 only because they were kind of actually maybe 2 is appropriate. You're right. I mean, them specifically, they didn't do anything for me really, but I just so include them with the whole thing happening, you know?
Yeah.
And so, you know, we have the tangential, you know, part of things that we talk about a lot.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is kind of there. I'll give it a 3. I don't know if it deserves it, but I'll give it a 3 if nothing else, because I do actually like this album overall for the most part, and so far.
Right. Solid 3s across the board.
Yeah, these are more Godzuki scores rather than Godzilla, if you know what I'm saying.
For sure.
3.
I know.
3.
Let's keep it going.
Yeah.
Keep it Godzuki.
How much did you enjoy listening today?
I gave it a 4. Like there was a lot here for me that was new and good. Like we listened to some of these that I hadn't heard before, and I was like, ugh, this sucks.
It's a slog. Yeah.
I do agree.
Man, I have to keep doing this.
Get a little long, but I didn't mind listening to it multiple times. So like it stays fresh for as long as it stays fresh. And, you know, being a little caught off guard about the just kind of melodicness and atmosphericness of it was a fun little surprise. So there is not another song that stands out the way that Anti-Hero does, which is maybe unfortunate, maybe not, but the album overall is still enjoyable to listen to.
Fair. I'm glad you made the Anti-Hero comment, because my biggest problem with this album is how every song could have been as good as Anti-Hero if there were just subtle adjustments made to each.
Yeah.
And the clean singing takes me out of it every time it happens, unless it's in the background, which I think it's only once, because the rest of the time, man, they go for it, and it's brutal. I find it horrendous. Like,
they do layer it and Judge the Blood a little bit better. It's not so standalone. And even actually the first song, I commented that I love the backing vocals.
Same.
But when they're backing 100%. Vocals, like you said.
I said, man, this is a great use of the subpar singing being only in the background for texture. Parentheses, looking at you, Zayo. And then track 3...
That's where I was like, I hate these vocals.
Yeah, exactly. So Anti-Hero has none.
Yeah.
Force Fed has it done perfectly. So by the time we get to track 3, I'm thinking like, man, these dudes know that part of their limitation.
Right.
Nope. Not even a little. That mixed with the kick being really bad, like awkwardly bad at moments. Because it's like he's syncing up with Chugs. So when he doesn't line up right, it's so obvious, and he does it kind of a lot. So I gave it a 3.
Okay.
It just felt like a band that was constantly trying to get in their own way. You know, when all they really had to do was just calm down and maybe actually like not think so hard. Just like take a step back, realize your limitations, realize what you're good at, and do it. And it makes me sad.
Spokes.
Exactly. No, I mean, for real. So I don't know how often this happens, but I gave it a 3 across the board for a score of 12. And Josh has a score of 14. You're only 2 more than me, but it seems like you rated it so much higher.
There's a 5 and a 4, and then a 2. That's how averages work. I guess.
Sure are. So we got a total score of 26 for Gone Forever by God Forbid. So what is your favorite song off of this here album?
I was stuck for a little while between Washed Out World and Judge the Blood. But on subsequent listens, it shifted more to Judge the Blood. Like, the lyrics caught me today. I just really liked what they did. The sweet piano intro fade in. The lyrics were great. The layering of the cleans and the harshes, like I mentioned. Like this one, the solo's super sweet too. So like this is much different than Anti-Hero, but like, it's probably the closest to a complete thought that's wholly God Forbid and not them trying to shoehorn stuff in, like you mentioned.
Yeah, super fair. Also worth mentioning, because you brought up the solo, there was so on track 6, Living Nightmare, I was listening to the solo. I'm like, man, this solo gives me Jeff Loomis vibes, just not as shreddy as Jeff Loomis. And then I get to track 7 and I'm listening to him like, man, this solo really gives me Jeff Loomis vibes and actually does seem pretty shreddy. And then just like you with Tommy Vex, I'm like, man, this is just because I love Jeff Loomis, everything he does. And I was like, and I went over to the wiki. I'm like, oh, because it is a Jeff Loomis solo. Yeah. Not track 6, but track 7. But yeah, good for them getting that dude. My favorite song, God, it's a tie. I'm going to do Gone Forever.
Sick.
I think. Yeah. It's between Gone Forever and Force Fed. Those would be my two choices.
Force Fed, sick.
Yeah, I'll do Gone Forever, and Gone Forever is actually kind of one of the better singing parts. I actually didn't dislike it.
Yeah.
So it was pretty solid. So, okay. Gone Forever for me, Judge the Blood for you. Going on to our TDTL favorites playlist over on Spotify, if you want to check that out. Since I forgot to post for Mastodon, I would suppose odds are pretty good that I forgot to add Mastodon songs to the playlist, too.
We'll find out.
More to you're just going to get a bunch of surprises if you do follow the playlist.
That's right.
You can check us out on Instagram if you'd like, TDTL_podcast, where I guess maybe don't follow because I just choose weeks not to even post anything, apparently.
I mean, we're all human.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't know. What do you think, Josh? Yeah.
I think there's a lot to like about this album, really. Like, so if you're not into God Forbid, or if you've only heard Anti-Hero, go back and listen to some of their stuff. There's some good things on here, and man, like, there's one part in Better Days, like, he says exercise the demons, and then does a ruh afterward.
Oh,
that's
ruh
tough as fuck.
That's my point D. Okay, the quote ruh, R-U-H, into something similar to a breakdown is hardcore-ish adjacent, but I don't care. I love it.
I also spelled it R-U-H.
Awesome. Yeah. No. Oh, the ruh. I'm glad you brought up the ruh. I forgot. That shit is fucking... I was ready to go.
Yeah.
I was Peter Griffin on fucking crystal meth, ready to go.
He is so fucking ready. All right. So, don't do crystal meth.
Probably. It seems bad.
Yeah, it does. And with that, he's been Brad. I've been Josh, and we've been 2 decades too late.